The elder leaned toward the fire, the flames flickering in his gaze. His voice carried weight enough to bend the air, the breathing space between wars. After the Draenei War, the galaxy breathed differently. You must understand, wars had always left scars, but rarely had they healed. Peoples rebuilt walls but not trust, fleets but not kinship. But when the humans fought for the Char, something shifted. The Torun found songs again. The Kalani's children learned words of courage. The Char walked without shame. No star chart could measure this change. No fleet report could explain it. It was not empire they built. It was belonging. And every empire felt the pull of their gravity. The council in upheaval. I was there when the Grand Council debated. The Kalani rose first. They kept their word, she said, voice trembling with passion. Without them, we would have burned. They are not allies. They are kin. The Char delegate followed, scarred and sharp. For centuries we were spat upon. The humans sat at our table. Who else has ever done this? The Toruan sang, not words, but harmony, 3 notes that shook the walls. They brought back our children. And the core spat. Silken robes, jewel-banded arms, voices fat with power. They waste lives as though they are nothing, one sneered. Their ships are patched wrecks. They burn too bright, another said. They are chaos in flesh. Let them spread, and we all will burn. And in the shadows, darker whispers. Strike first. Contain them, before their web strangles us all. The chamber was a storm. Then the humans walked in. No crowns, no banners, plain uniforms, calloused hands. And they smiled. Every delegate who had seen them fight, who had heard laughter and fire, fell silent. The silence was heavier than a fleet at your doorstep. The arrogance of the Dominion. The Zal Dominion did not care. They were ancient, proud, arrogance bound to their bones. For centuries, they had ruled their region, enslaving, taxing, crushing. They tolerated no rivals and saw no equals. So when the Toruan sang in rebuilt harbors, when the Char gained respect, when the Kalani prospered under human protection, the Dominion raged. All this because of fragile creatures? They spat. No, we will remind them who rules. They struck at the Toruan, burned their harbors, seized their young, mocked their songs with jeers. They thought the humans too thin, too tired, too few. They thought wrong. The march of humanity. I was at a neutral station when they came. Hundreds of ships, scarred, patched, alive. No gleaming polish, no jeweled banners. Just holes etched with names, painted with promises. For Kalani, never again. Family first? I owe you one, Jace. These were not fleets. They were floating graves, living memories. And they sang, across channels, in voices raw and untrained, songs of grief, defiance, laughter. The sky catches fire. When the fleets met, the void burned. The Dominion fought like they always had, precise. Formations unbroken, volleys measured, shields like walls of light. Admirals barked orders in perfect rhythm. The humans answered with storm. They overloaded weapons until barrels glowed, pushed engines until hulls screamed, rammed ships 3 times their size, reactors detonating in fire. I saw a frigate aflame drive through a Dominion line before splitting apart. A gutted carrier, decks filled with fire, obeyed one final order, forward. It rammed the Dominion flagship. Both vanished in light. Madness, suicide, victory. The Dominion had never seen warriors who embraced death, who smiled into annihilation and turned it into a weapon. Voices from the ground. And then came the soldiers. They fell like meteors, pods screaming through night. The Dominion had trenches, cannons, traps. It was not enough. The pod split, and mechs rose. Not elegant, not graceful, but when humans climbed inside, they became predators. I heard one Toruan survivor tell this. The sky cracked open. We thought more fire was falling. Then giants strode through the smoke, and we realized they had come for us. And another voice, a Char soldier. I fought beside one, his mech shattered, his arm broken. He laughed, reloaded with his teeth, and shouted, "Not today." He kept fighting long after he should have fallen. Do you see? Their madness is not just bravery. It is contagion. It spreads. Even those who stand beside them cannot help but catch it. The Dominion shatters. The Dominion had numbers, discipline, pride. It was not enough. Their fleets cracked. Their armies ran. Their arrogance bled out. And the humans pressed, not to conquer, but to free, to open camps, to carry Toruan children back, to rebuild harbors with their own hands. The Dominion had wanted to teach humans fear. Instead, they learned it. Mercy after fire. And when it was done, food, medicine, water, songs for the dead, friend and foe alike. To enemies, they offered peace. To allies, they gave blood. Who else does this? Who wages war like flame, then offers a hand to the burned? Only humans. The web tightens. Every victory tightened the web. The Toruan pledged eternal kinship. The Kalani wrote new songs. Even some Dominion survivors joined them, ashamed of their leaders, drawn by human fire. And the Corps watched, teeth clenched. For every war, humans grew stronger. Their scars became stories. Their stories became fuel. How do you fight such a people? Rumors and legends. Stories spread faster than fleets. In taverns, smugglers whispered, "I saw a human shot through the chest. He fought 3 more hours." In marketplaces, children shouted, "1 human equals 100 soldiers." On mining worlds, workers told each other, "The humans sing when they fight." Were these true? Does it matter? Truth bends around them. Legend follows them like a cloak. And fear grows with legend. The 4th lesson. The elder's voice thinned to a whisper, each word heavy as stone. The Valkyrie taught us that humans fight like demons. The Council showed us they love like kin. The Draenei War taught us they endure beyond reason. And the Dominion taught us the 4th lesson. Humans do not stop. They rise again and again. Burn, bleed, die, rise stronger. Every wound is a scar. Every scar a story. Every story, fuel. To oppose them is to feed the fire. And still, the Corps whispered, "What if the fire consumes us all?" The elder settled closer to the coals, letting the heat crease his weathered face. Outside, the wind combed the dunes. Inside, the young ones drew tight in a ring, as if the story itself required a circle to hold it. A peace that would not hold. After the Dominion fell, a strange quiet spread, like snowfall after fire. Trade lanes, once choked with raids, ran clear. Toruan songs returned to markets that had forgotten how to echo. Kalani children learned human lullabies alongside their own. Even the Char, long shunned, found neighbors who met their eyes. But it was not the piece of stone. It was ice stretched over a river, glittering, thin, singing with pressure. Beneath it, a current pulled. He raised a hand, fingers splayed. On one side of the ice stood gratitude. On the other, fear. How the streets spoke. The council argued in vaulted halls. Yes, but listen. History lives where bread is bought and stories are traded in handfuls. A Kalani fruit seller told me. Humans haggle backwards. I lowered the price to be kind. They raised it to be kinder. A Toruan dockhand said, "A human slept on the deck so I could have his bunk." He snored like thunder. I have never felt safer. A former Dominion customs scribe spat. They sing in line. They sing in storms. They sing when bleeding. They are either holy or mad. And everywhere, children played a game called the human. They wrapped rags around arms, staggered dramatically, and shouted, "I'm not done yet," before collapsing into laughter. The game always ended the same. The human got back up. Hope, awe, annoyance, dread, all threaded into the same rope. The Grand Council on a knife's edge. I stood in the council chamber the day the argument became a crack. The Kalani struck her staff and cried, "They kept their word, seat them among us." The Char unsheathed old scars with his voice. When we were dust, they sat at our table. If you deny them now, deny us too. The Torun sang 3 notes that made banners shiver. They brought back our children. And the core, the core, perfumed and heavy with old certainties, replied with poison wrapped in reason. "Reckless," one said, "they waste themselves like kindling." "Contagious," said another, "their fury spreads to allies, it is destabilizing." "Insidious," whispered a third, "kindness as conquest." Then the humans entered. No ornaments, no crowns, just uniforms patched at the elbow, fingers ink stained from repair lists, faces lined from too many wakes. They did not speak. They smiled. Young ones, there are speeches that bend rooms. A human smile bent that one, not with charm, but with memory. Everyone who had seen a human laugh in fire felt their throat close. The core begins the work of fear. Debate is slow water, fear is a knife. The core moved where knives do. They drafted a white parchment called the Containment Memorandum. Not war, they said, but prudence. Not blockade, but guardrails. Not sanctions, but stability contributions. They purchased mouths. Scribes who had never left their plazas began to write. Humans enslaved with gifts. They hired voices to mutter in ports. Don't drink human water, it binds the will. They nudged old enemies toward human allies and called it course correction. On nights without moons, they met in rooms that smelled of ink and old leather and said the word they would not put to paper: coalition. A secret dinner in Ivory Harbor. Told as rumor, but rumor with the weight of metal. 6 core envoys, a Dominion remnant commodore, 2 guildmasters hungry as wolves, private room, 12 plates, no name spoken aloud. Candles guttered, maps lay with pins like teeth. "We do not strike," the elder envoy said. "We shape." "And if shaping fails?" asked the commodore, finger tapping a scar where metals once hung. "Then we demonstrate limits," the second envoy smiled. "A test. Small, deniable. We will call it piracy. If the humans overreach, we condemn their aggression. If they hold, our partners learn caution. And if they come like storm?" The smile sharpened. "Then at least the masks fall, and we gather our own storm with clean hands." "Clean hands," the elder chuckled without humor. "Paper is so easily washed." The humans keep building. Humans are not blind. Their ears are everywhere. Their fools are often their spies. They knew the mood turned. They knew hands waved knives. And still, they drilled wells on dust worlds, rebuilt shard clinics, taught Toruan children to read ship manifests so no foreman could cheat them. They argued in public and clinked cups after. They sang in plenaries until even their adversaries carried snatches of melody home by accident. "We keep our word," 6 small words said with the weight of mountains. They carved it into bulkheads. They wrote it on the backs of their hands. They painted it on the knees of mechs where oil and blood would wash it clean daily, forcing them to repaint it nightly. Oath as ritual, ritual as defiance. The measurement of a myth. Understand, numbers did not make the core panic. Stories did. A Kalani convoy limped in after a micrometeor storm. The humans cut their own air to feed ours through the coupling. On a mining moon, a human foreman worked 3 shifts, then gave his pay to a widow he had never met. On a border skirmish nobody will admit occurred, a single human squad held a pass for 30 hours without resupply. Afterward, they apologized for the mess and helped repair the enemy's field kitchen because the soup pot shouldn't suffer for Commander's pride. Ridiculous, yes, but legends accrete like barnacles. Soon the hull is all texture. The Corps' coalition needed teeth. They found them in places where pride howls. Dominion diehards dreaming of lost banners, guilds who saw human fairness as a thief in daylight, border captains with promotions pinned to escalation. They assembled a plan with the elegance of a trap and the innocence of a rockfall. 7 incidents in 7 sectors on the same day, enough smoke to call the humans the fire. Street voices as barometers. On the eve of that day, the streets knew more than the chambers. In a Toruan harbor, a drummer changed the beat, faster, tighter, as if teaching lungs to sprint. In a Kalani market, mothers bought extra salt, the old sign for voyages that may not return. On a char mining shelf, a notice went up, Shift D paired with human medics at dusk. Bring the injured, pride is not a bandage. The people who have to survive always hear the storm first. The humans laugh anyway. I watched a human mess tent the night before the knives. They argued about the best way to mend an air recycler with a shoelace and 2 spoons. They told a joke about a mech that learned to waltz. Someone tuned a battered guitar. A young soldier, no medals, asked his sergeant, "Do they hate us now?" The sergeant chewed, swallowed, answered without drama. "Some do. Some always will. Eat, we'll fix what we can and fight what we must." Then he poured the kid more broth, because humans feed the frightened before they answer philosophy. 7 sparks. You want to know how storms begin? Not with thunder, with the smallest rips. 1. A beacon in the amber drift blinked nonsense just as a Kalani aid convoy entered the shoals. 2. A Toruan ferry accidentally boarded by anti-piracy contractors who confiscated instruments as encrypted devices. 3. A Char clinic power outage coinciding with the arrival of an inspection team demanding to see storage that required power to unlock. 4. A human forward depot found its water tanks contaminated with solvent, no witnesses, only ruined taste. 5. A Dominion holdout cell released a recording of a human captain admitting to coercion, spliced from 3 different funerals. 6. A Corps patrol escorted a human merchant through a shortcut where micro debris unexpectedly shredded her radiators. 7. A rumor, always the 7th is a rumor, that a famous human mech pilot had been seen weeping alone. Why? Remorse, the whisper said. He fears the day the mask falls. This is how you soften a target, not by breaking bones, but by bruising trust until raising a hand seems like relief. What the web looks like up close. Even so, the response was not a mob. It was meticulous. Kalani stevedores chalked routes on the dock floor to avoid inspectors' random checks. Toruan mothers braided strings with beads for children, each bead a code. Blue go left, green go right, red find a human. Shaw mechanics prepositioned couplings by the transformers that always failed near inspections. And humans? They slept in shifts inside warehouses so no one would have to break a lock to find a friend at midnight. The containment accord becomes a banner. The Corps had its paper. It needed a symbol. They painted a sigil, 7 interlocked rings around a dark star, and called it the Accord of Stability. Neat, elegant, lies usually are. Under that banner, they staged a joint exercise near 3 human corridors and a Toruan harbor. They announced temporary tariff harmonizations that all curiously penalized goods purchased with human credit. They created a registry of war-adjacent professions, medics, mechanics, agronomists, then pretended surprise when those lists matched human aid rosters. He shook his head. Containment can be a velvet barricade. It does not squeak when it slides into place. A small night with a great weight. I was in a Toruan canteen when an old singer changed her closing line. She always ended with "Sail back to me." That night she sang, "Sail back through fire." The room did not cheer. It nodded, quietly, as if agreeing to share a burden. 2 tables over, a young Tauruan tugged a human sleeve. "If they come, will you still sing?" The human smiled with tired kindness. "Especially then." The boy grinned fiercely. "Then we will drum louder, so you don't have to carry the beat alone." The split within the core. Do not think the core was a single mind. It argued with itself in expensive rooms while the cheaper rooms prepared bandages. One faction, robed in law, believed the pressure would teach compliance. They will learn to stay in their lane. Another, robed in steel, believed a sharp blow was needed. Strike a hand that feeds too many. Others will choose to starve with dignity rather than eat with fear. A third, robed in practical hunger, just wanted their old margins back. Human fairness is bad for business. They could not agree on the speed of cruelty, but agreed on its direction. A human reply without trumpets. From Earth came a broadcast stripped of martial dressing. A woman in work coveralls stood before a whiteboard smeared with grease. "To those who fear us," she said, "we cannot ease a fear you have chosen. We can only keep our word. We will keep building. If you deny a ship medicine, we will fly another ship. If you bottleneck a corridor, we will cut a new path. If you strike our kin, we will come. That is not a threat. It is a map." She bowed, not the bow of a victor. The bow of a mason who knows the wall still needs laying. The day the market stopped. You can measure tension in coins. One morning, a Kalani market did not haggle. Prices were read, not argued. The custom is to sing the last sale. That day they sang nothing. Why? Because word had come. The Accord fleets would inspect the harbor at dusk. The crowd saved breath for running. How a quiet ally became a loud one. A Merrick smuggler, sharp as broken glass, kept his head low for years. That week, he lifted it. Containment? "I've seen that word mean cages in a dozen tongues," he told me. "The humans eat last and guard first. The core eat first and guard the ledger. You want my choice? I'll show you my ledger. Pages of names who made it home because a human ignored a regulation to break an airlock faster. He broke 3 of his own rotes to run medicine past inspections. He said, 'Tell the council to find me.' They already did when I was born." The last whisper before thunder. Even the wind holds its breath before a storm. The night before the Accord fleets moved in concert for the first time, the usual dogfights didn't happen. Men who hated each other shared a bottle and spoke softly. A char foreman closed early and told his crew to go home and memorize your mother's hands. He wasn't being poetic. Memory is armor. What the young should know of old patterns. The elder's gaze swept the circle, stern and gentle at once. Patterns repeat until someone breaks them. The Valkyrie struck and were burned. The Draenei struck and were broken. The Dominion struck and were humbled. Each called humans reckless, each taught the same lesson. Too late. The core thought themselves different because they used paperwork and proxies. But whether the fist is gloved or bare, the blow lands the same. The 5th lesson, spoken plain. The first lesson, humans fight like demons. The second, they love like kin. The third, they endure beyond reason. The fourth, they do not stop. And the 5th, learn it before you need it. Every attempt to contain them only feeds their fire. Starve their convoys, and they grow new roots. Blaspheme their names, and their friends repeat them louder. Sand their gears, and they rebuild the machine with their hands, bleeding, laughing, singing as they work. Strike their family. He bared his teeth, not in warmth, but in the old way, the way of warning. And they will come, not with a crown, with soup, with bandages, with songs, and, if you insist on making the day a bloody one, with steel. He let the fire speak for a long breath. The core told themselves the containment accord would cool the coals. What they built was a bellows. Coda, a small thing made large. Before the fleets moved, a human child on a dust world wrote in chalk on a clinic wall. If it breaks, fix it. If you can't fix it, hold it. If you can't hold it, call us. The clinic director tried to scrub it off before the inspectors came. She could not. The chalk had fallen into the bricks thirst and stayed. When the inspectors arrived, they took a picture of the wall as evidence of seditious signage. The image spread faster than their report. Every harbor copied the words. Chalk became paint. Paint became banners. Banners became oaths. That is how storms choose their flags, not in palaces, but in hands small enough to believe the world listens.